on the 9th, the 9th of September last year. And this is what you said. With all the relationships, we also have disagreements. I think we disagree more sharply on the subject of human rights between the United States and Vietnam. So after 6 months, you have been in Vietnam. What is different between now and when you make the statement in Hanoi in September of last year?
The questioner noted that I stated during my September 9 press conference in Hanoi that the United States and Vietnam still have some disagreements, and the area in which we most sharply disagree is human rights. And the question is, how has my view changed? What have I learned in the past 6 months? Well, I've learned that it's a fact that we continue to disagree sharply in the area of human rights. Vietnamese human rights practices, particularly in the areas of freedom of speech and freedom of association, continue to be highly restrictive. This is something we would like to see change. We believe that there continue to be arbitrary restrictions on freedom of speech and freedom of association, particularly under Articles 79 and 88, which we would like to see repealed. And we bring this to the attention of the Vietnamese authorities at every opportunity. One thing that struck me in the past 6 months, just since I arrived in Vietnam, is the level of concern, both among foreigners in Vietnam and the Vietnamese themselves, about the level of corruption. This is a problem that prevents Vietnam from realizing its own potential. It's a problem that I think even senior Vietnamese officials recognize, and it's a very difficult problem, but it's something that we would certainly like to see. It's an area, in addition to human rights, that's related to human rights that we would certainly like to see improve.
So the second question is, I talked with Dr. Quay late last year, and I interviewed him, and he said, this is the worst human rights violation by the Vietnamese government ever. Do you agree with Dr. Quay?
What's the worst human rights violation?
All area. He told me the all area. All kind of violation of the Vietnamese government.
I think the situation is, as an ambassador, I have to be very careful about distinguishing different areas like religion, freedom of speech and freedom of association, trafficking in persons, in order for the integrity of my embassy and the validity of our judgments to maintain a high standard. We have to discriminate very carefully among these areas, and I think the situation differs from area to area. But I think, in particular, with regard to freedom of expression and freedom of association, we've seen a deterioration in the situation in Vietnam. In other areas, not necessarily the case. In trafficking in persons, for example, I think we've seen some improvement. The Vietnamese government just passed a new anti-trafficking law. They have adopted a 5-year action plan and devoted $15 million to the effort to combat trafficking in persons. And the information they're giving us on their activities, like arrests, for example, is increasing. So there's an improvement in that area. But in the key area of freedom of expression and freedom of association, we've seen a deterioration. 25 people were arrested in 2011, many of them under Articles 79 and 88, which allow for rather arbitrary arrest in these circumstances.
Thank you, sir.